let me play first what we heard just now from the former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi this morning about President Biden. Let's listen.
I want him to do whatever he decides to do. And that's the way it is. Whatever he decides, we go with. I think it's really important, and I would hope everyone would join in, to let him deal with this NATO conference. This is a very big deal. Over 30 heads of state are here. He is the host of it, and that means not just hosting, it means orchestrating the discussion and setting the agenda, and he's doing so magnificently. And I've said to everyone, let's just hold off. Whatever you're thinking, either tell somebody privately, but you don't have to put that out on the table until we see how we go this week.
Jeff, what do you hear in that? I mean, Pelosi saying, I want him to decide and do whatever he decides to do. I mean, we have heard what Joe Biden says he has decided to do, but what do you hear from Speaker Pelosi? And what are you hearing in Michael Bennet coming out publicly to say that he doesn't think Biden can win?
Hey, Kate, good morning. If you unpack what Speaker Pelosi is saying there, it's actually quite interesting. She is saying that hold off, no one should make any proclamations, at least publicly, to the Michael Bennetts and others of the world. But she's also saying, let's see how this week goes. Let's see how the NATO summit goes. Let's see how the rest of the week goes. And that includes, what does polling show? So, Kate, I am told that Democrats really are in a state of disbelief over how this has played out, but particularly they are keeping their eyes on some swing states. What is the data showing this week? So if you listen to what former Speaker Pelosi, who is as close and as sharp of a reader as polls and the dynamic as really anyone in the party, she is saying, let's take a breath and hold off. But what she did not say is try to really quiet the conversation and that Biden is all in. She said it's up to President Biden. So it was pretty extraordinary there. And of course, I'm thinking back now, just watching those comments made just a few minutes ago on Morning Joe, what she said last week. She really framed the conversation around President Biden's performance at the debate, asking publicly, was that an episode or a condition? So I think this is the latest sort of words of wisdom or lessons to her party, saying it's up to President Biden, but hold off for now. But Kate, the reality is that time is on the side of the president and the White House. They've essentially tried to run out the clock this week and tried to circle the wagons, and they've been pretty successful at doing that. So President Biden is winning the week in terms of holding off that big dam from breaking. That did not happen. At least it hasn't happened yet. So the pressure campaign has worked. The question is, though, how much more difficult of a race to run is this now for the next 4 months? And it's pretty significant.
Talk me through that. What are the signs, or as concrete as they can get? What are the concrete signs that his path has been made any more difficult since that debate performance?
Well, Kate, the bottom line is the battleground map is expanding. It has gotten extraordinarily more difficult in some of the swing states since that debate. And we should point out, even before the debate, former President Donald Trump was leading in many of these states. But if you look at our road to 270, of course, that is the magic number needed to win. Some important adjustments here. Look at Michigan. That now, in our rankings, is lean Republican. Michigan and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, that is part of the blue wall that Biden has been holding on to, needing to win. Not saying he can't, but it's in a very much more difficult position than they were hoping it would be here in the month of July. Also look out west to Nevada and Arizona. Arizona is still a battleground in our map, a toss-up, but Nevada is much more difficult, and the Biden campaign is aware of this. Also Georgia, of course, the site of the debate, has always been one of the more difficult battlegrounds for President Biden to win, but they've been investing heavily there. Now that is lean Republican. But Minnesota, I am told by many Democratic advisors and strategists now that is also on the cusp of becoming more difficult as well. So we have moved that into lean Republican. So the bottom line here is the battleground map is expanding. The opportunities for Donald Trump to win have grown. And Minnesota, you may think, well, that sounds like a Democratic state. But if you'll think back to 2016, that was the narrowest defeat for Donald Trump over Hillary Clinton, just lost it by about 1 percentage point or so. So think of Minnesota from here forward as the reddest blue state, if you will. So the bottom line to all of this race is now more difficult for President Biden going into the final stretches here. So he won the pressure campaign, at least so far this week in Washington. But what type of a race is left for him? And it's harder, Kate.
So with new comments just this morning, the former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is leaving the door open for President Biden to potentially step aside from his campaign, but also at the same time is pleading with fellow Democrats to give him time and space to, quote, to do whatever he decides to do. Whatever he decides, we go with. Listen.
It's up to the president to decide if he is going to run. We're all encouraging him to make that decision. I want him to do whatever he decides to do, and that's the way it is. Whatever he decides, we go with. I think it's really important, and I would hope everyone would join in, to let him deal with this NATO conference. This is a very big deal. Let's just hold off. Whatever you're thinking, either tell somebody privately, but you don't have to put that out on the table until we see how we go this week.
So Pelosi's comments today come as the president and the White House are trying to turn the page on this crisis. As one Biden aide put it in new CNN reporting, we're done talking about the debate, but it appears other Democrats are not. House Democrats held a family meeting of sorts yesterday with the focus being what to do about Joe Biden now. And joining us right now is Democratic Congressman from Tennessee, Steve Cohen. Congressman, it's good to see you. Thank you for coming in. First and foremost, what do you think Nancy Pelosi is saying there? What do you hear in her remarks?
Nancy Pelosi is one of the best politicians and smartest people I've ever been blessed to deal with and interact with. And she's saying what we should do. The realities are Joe Biden will determine whether he's the nominee or not. If he wants to be the nominee, he will be the nominee. If he doesn't, we'll have some other avenue. And she's saying, let Joe Biden decide. Nancy had that decision a few years ago, whether to remain a speaker or not. And she chose not to, but she's had a great life the last year and a half as Speaker Emeritus and been on the national, international stage as a person of wisdom and made a big impact. And she's saying, leave it to Joe Biden. Nancy Pelosi's almost always right.
She is an astute political tactician and in reading of data and polls and the temperature for sure. Do you hear in those comments that she is not closing the door on the possibility that Joe Biden may still decide to step aside? Do you agree she's leaving the door open to that?
I believe she is, and I believe that the Democratic caucus respects her opinion, is guided by her opinion, and it also knows that this election is so important that we need to defeat Donald Trump, who's a threat to our democracy, the rule of law, and freedom. He's a 32-time felon. He's a sexual civil defendant who's been found liable up to $100 million in damages. He's not somebody we should hold up to the world and to our children, our families, and ourselves as a role model, which the president should be. And Joe Biden is a fine man. Joe Biden is a man he's very polished. He's knowledgeable. He's had a great record, and he's somebody that people would respect.
After that family meeting of House Democrats yesterday, you were asked that if the caucus was now on the same page, and what you said is, we are not even in the same book. That doesn't sound good, Congressman. What do you mean?
There were a lot of different opinions expressed in the caucus about what we should do, what will be best for the nation, will be best for defeating Donald Trump. And that's what the Democratic Party is about. The Democratic Party represents in the Congressional Caucus a wide divergence of electorates, constituencies, opinions. And we spoke up about those, and some people were one direction and some were another. Some there was even a third point. But we were not unified, and we were not and there were some of them were diametrically opposed to each other. But that's what you expect, and that's what we're going to go through, and that's what a good debate is, and we'll come out with a good solution. But the bottom line is Joe Biden is the person who will decide if he's going to be the nominee or not. It's in his power, and that'll be up to his family and to Joe Biden. And I think Speaker Pelosi is correct. Let's just give him some space. How he does in this Thursday night press conference will be really important. He'll be speaking not through a teleprompter, but on his own. He will spontaneously. And that'll be a big test, and we'll see what's happening. He looked great last night at NATO. He made a great speech, and I think he represented our country admirably and honorably.